Hi, I'm Liz.
And I'm Brandon.
And we live in a homemade truck camper that we call the Beep Beep Birdhouse. Welcome to the inside of the Beep Beep Birdhouse. This entire side of the camper is the kitchen. So we have a 6-foot long counter. And then kind of starting at this end, we have an RV stove that we bought, used from some guy who ripped it out of an old RV. It was pretty cheap, and it has 3 burners on the top of the stove, and then it also has an oven as well, so we can bake things. We make a lot of pizzas. And then below that we have a lot of storage for pots and pans, and then at the back of that area as well we have a 5-pound propane canister that we can refill. It's like $5 to refill the whole thing. It's super cheap. And then we also have our water jug at the back of that as well. This column at the top is just kind of a junk drawer. We like to have a lot of spaces that are dedicated for just putting miscellaneous things so it doesn't clutter the camper. So honestly, most of our storage space is just like kind of could be described as a junk drawer. And then below that we have our trash can at the front that has a lid on it because it can get pretty smelly. And then beyond that is our gray water. So I mentioned the fresh water and the gray water. This is all hooked up to an electric pump that is connected to our sink, which is copper. And we got the sink also used on Facebook Marketplace. It used to be like a bathroom sink. The top area over here is kind of another like junk area, so we have like a lot of like plastic bags and paper towels. But the gem of this area is our Yeti 1500X battery, which we decided to get because neither of us are very electrically inclined, and we know you can like kind of create your own system with like custom selected like inverters and batteries and whatnot. But we just decided to go with the easy kind of plug and play option. So this literally just connects directly to our solar panels, which are 3 100-watt solar panels that we have on the roof of the camper. So we have our Dometic fridge freezer. It's the 95-liter option, but we did get it at the REI garage sale for like $600 off. I think it's normally like $1,300 and we got it for like $650. And we also really like the size of this. We thought it was going to be overkill at first, but we typically shop like every other week, and it lasts us the entire time, so we don't have to shop for groceries too often. And we also love having a freezer, just because it makes like easy dinners super accessible, like frozen pizzas and whatnot. So the top of the counter itself, the counter is 6 feet long and it's made of Padauk wood, which we got from kind of like a woodworking store. It's like completed together out of like multiple pieces that we like glued together. So it's actually 4 pieces to make the counter this long. And then at the top, most of the things we have are like velcroed down so that they don't move. This actually, the velcro has come off. So that's another thing that we had. Like, we thought the velcro was going to last longer, but the adhesive has kind of worn off. This one's still velcroed, but like this one is coming off. This one's fine. But we have a hutch here that we use to store all of our like commonly used kitchen utensils. So we have like scissors, spatula, lighter, and then we have our sponges. A recent addition to our kitchen is our milk frother, which has been key in making lattes, and we love it and highly recommend it. It was like $6. This top section is comprised mostly of this like Rubbermaid bin, which we use to keep all of our like plates and bowls and cups and whatnot. In order to keep things together, we have this silverware roll, which used to be a roll for Brandon's art supplies, but we repurposed it, and I think it's like a nice alternative to a silverware drawer, because you can like pull it out in and out pretty easily and like set it down wherever you want. So below this is our Nature's Head toilet. It's just the standard Nature's Head model. We like it a lot. It has like separate compartments for like liquids and solids. So it has like 2 gallons for your pee, which we like empty pretty regularly, and then it composts the solid waste. which we don't use too often. We prefer to not use the toilet for pooping as much as possible. So we have stayed at campgrounds that have like toilets, and that's our preferred method, because it can get kind of stinky, but we haven't used it in like a week or two, and now it just smells like dirt. So once it starts composting, it doesn't smell too bad. And then kind of the last part of the kitchen, which is not necessarily part of the kitchen, it just floats around, but we have this ottoman or coffee table or step or whatever you want to call it. It's like very multi-purpose. We use it for stepping up to the bed, but we also use it for like dinner, like putting our plates on, as a footrest or whatever, and it also serves as storage. And it's really just 2 IKEA crates stacked on top of each other with like a spare piece of wood that we had from building the camper as like the tabletop. And we put like miscellaneous things in here as well. I think our blender's in here. We have like snacks and whatever in there as well. I think this is something that I had always wanted to do. I like started climbing at the beginning of college, climbed throughout college, and as it came closer to graduation, I knew I wanted to try like living on the road and climbing. So I bought a Honda CR-V, ripped out the back seats, and like built a platform and like lived out of that for like 4 months. And it was like the best summer of my life. So once I went back to working, I was like, I'm only gonna work for a few years. I'm gonna save up money and I'm gonna live in a van or something. And then I met Brandon, and we started to noodle around about ideas for what to do, and he came up with the idea of building a trek camper.
And similar for me, always having been a climber, I always wanted to be able to live on the road and really spend time in climbing spots and get to climb at a lot of different destinations, especially being from Columbus, Ohio. It's not a lot of local climbing, and so being able to be a local in a climbing spot is something I had always wanted. And then when me and Liz started talking about what we wanted to build, my background's in architectural design, and I had seen a lot of other kind of wood truck campers around on Instagram, and it really seemed like a fun build project and a really fun little design idea we wanted to tackle.
We also thought about a van. We like started looking around at vans that had 4-wheel drive, because we've been to a bunch of climbing areas and know that like a lot of the best places to climb require like a car that has 4-wheel drive. And so we were looking at like high top cargo vans that had 4-wheel drive, and they were so expensive. And we found this truck on Craigslist for $6,000. So we thought like, why not buy this and just build something. On this side of the kitchen, right next to the stove, we have this kind of trap door. We originally kind of wanted this door behind us to be one of those like barn doors where the top would open and the bottom could open independently, but we couldn't find one of those. So instead we added this door, and it makes it so that we can open up the space without completely opening the door. And it's also nice because it's right next to the cooking area. So if we like are cooking something and it's like smoking a lot, we can open this door and turn on the roof vent, and it like circulates air really nicely. At this end of the camper as well, on either side of the door, we have a couple hooks. They're kind of cute and shaped like chairs. And this hook is for all of our hats, which we have a lot of. And then the hook on the other side we use for our like fanny packs, headlamps, and masks, which are very important. And on the ceiling, we have mounted just like a string of lights. I think it's just a generic like Target or IKEA or something string of lights, and we put fake plant garlands on it from Michael's, which I think adds like a nice kind of like light airy green feel to the camper. We have in this corner our wood burning stove. It's a cubic mini cub stove, which is their smallest model, and it's designed to heat a tiny home of like 100 square feet or something, which is like kind of roughly the size of this space, so it works really well. And lining the wood burner area, this is just steel, and this is copper coated aluminum. I think both pieces were just left over from the metal that we used for trim on the camper. We have more IKEA crates. So this one's used for jackets, this one's for like hats and bandanas and whatnot. Behind all that stuff is some of Brandon's tools, and there's like a hatchet for chopping wood, and then wood storage as well behind here. And then at the bottom we have our shoe bins, so each of us gets a shoe bin. This is mine, this is Brandon's, and then we'll occasionally stuff like a backpack or something in there as well. We have our couch, which is actually the size of our couch in our apartment. We were wondering how big to make the couch, and we're like, oh, what's the size of our couch? So it's 6 feet long, and we actually used the cushions from our couch in our apartment, just our old IKEA couch, but we reupholstered it, so you'll notice the back is gray, which is the original fabric, but I reupholstered this like striped fabric on the rest of it. The couch doubles as storage, so we have like 3 separate panels that you can lift up. And the first panel is my clothes storage, the second panel is Brandon's clothes storage, and the third panel is like dry food. We have like rice and canned goods and whatever there. I think it's super nice and important to have like a separate seating area that's not your bed. Because I think mentally whenever you're sitting in your bed, you're kind of like turn into like bed mode and you want to sleep. So it's nice to have a place like if you want to like sit and read or do some work, that's like almost feels like a living room area. It's also nice living in the camper with another person to have like 2 separate places to be. Like one person can sit on the bed and one person can sit on the couch. And it kind of feels like alone time even though you're both in like a tiny space.
So this is the bedroom of the camper, and it sits above the cab of the truck itself. So up here, the mattress is just like 2-inch memory foam topper, and then it with extra sheep's wool insulation underneath. So we insulated the camper with sheep's wool because it's moisture resistant and also fire retardant, which was important with the wood burner. And then we had some of that left over, so we just put that underneath the mattress topper for a little extra padding. And also at the foot of the bed over here, we have a little bookshelf where we store all our climbing guidebooks and other books, because we like to read a lot on the road. And also up here above the bed, we have our roof vent, which is just the kind of standard max air roof vent. And we've really liked that so far, because the vent is able to stay open and operate while it's raining, which is really important because we've been in a lot of rainy climates as well. And then it's nice to get a good airflow to help cool down the camper, and especially when we're like cooking and things, it's nice to help get airflow to get the smell and the grease out of the camper. The best part about the bedroom is the fact that we do have a full-size bed, so comfy enough for us to both lay and sleep in. And then also with the skylight, it's nice to be able to sit up in the bed and then look out at the stars. And the height of the camper was actually given from the height of the bed itself, so I can still actually sit up in the bed and not have to slouch over at night, which is very, very nice. And so here at the front of the camper as well, we have the pass-through. And so as we were talking about, the bed sits above the cab of the truck, and so underneath here, this door lines up with a back window on the cab, and so we're able to crawl between the cab of the truck and the camper itself just through this door without ever having to leave. And so that's really nice for us on either just rainy days. If you forget something in the cab of the truck, you can get in there without having to go outside and get wet. And it's also nice to have that peace of mind that there's 2 exits in the camper, especially considering the other side of the camper has like the wood burner and the stove. So if anything ever happens over there, we can crawl out the front and be safe. Or if we're ever just in a hurry and need to leave a parking spot to feel safe, we can crawl right in and get driving without having to go outside.
I think like one of the hard things at first was like finding a routine, because I think for like a full year we had such a cohesive routine. Like we would go to work, we would come home, we'd work on the camper, we'd go to sleep. On the weekends we'd work on the camper. When we found time, we'd like go to the climbing gym or maybe go on like a little trip. But besides that, it was like so regimented. And it was kind of wild, like going from that to like just quitting your job and like having nothing planned out. Or even like having all of the like routine chores becoming like a little bit more up in the air, like where are we going to get water and where are we going to spend the night. Yeah, it was kind of a sudden shift, but I think we like adjusted really quickly to it, because it's like we'd been thinking about it for so long, and it's like something we really wanted to do.
I think it helped too. We had both done, as Liz said, she kind of did her 4-month stint in the CRV, and we've both done tons and tons of weekend trips and kind of a couple long week trips of climbing. So we'd had that experience before, a bit of kind of living on the road, or living out of tents for a week. So we had a bit of experience, which helped ease the transition a little bit. We knew what we were getting ourselves into before the first day, but settling in a routine definitely took a month or two until it really felt like we knew what we were doing every day.
I think that helps too. I think like maybe an unsolicited piece of advice I have is to like do a really low maintenance, like low commitment version of like van life if you can. Like I bought a CRV, I like had a job lined up after, so I like wasn't completely kind of like unemployed when I first did it, and like it was a car that I would have used anyway as a daily driver. And that like I think would have been, it was a good kind of like test to see if like living on the road was something I wanted to do, rather than like spending a full year building something out, going on the road and realizing that it's like incredibly stressful and like not as fun as you thought it would be.
This door actually we found in an alley near our old apartment. We were walking home from a friend's house and saw it leaning against a dumpster there and just knew we had to have it for the camper. And we had actually started the framing of the truck by that point already. And so we had the door opening framed, and the door we found was actually about 8 inches too tall for there and had about 8 more layers of paint than it currently does. So we scraped off all the loose paint and then had to cut the door down and route it and then re-glue it together so it would fit in our opening. But we really love the kind of old touch it has there. And then it even came with the original glass knob and old iron hinges, which have a lot of little great detail work that we're happy to find. And also on this back wall too, we have our little extra opening door, which is right by the stove. And so that's nice to open up, just let a little more light into the camper. And then also, since it's right by the stove, it's good to help air out things while we're cooking. So how we get into the camper is just a small step, which we stuck into the trailer hitch of the truck itself. And so it is a pretty big step to get up into the truck. And so putting that step in was a very last minute thing about the day before we got out of our lease and moved into the truck. And it's definitely one of those things on the road we've been talking about finding a better solution for, but life's so busy on the road it's hard to find the time to fix that. So this is the side of the camper, and we have kind of 2 main window types on the camper. We have the kind of round windows and then the rectangular ones. So we built all of the windows ourselves from scratch out of cherry offcuts from the local woodworking store. And the square ones actually open up to help get a nice cross breeze and ventilation. The round windows we built kind of as staving, so it's similar to how they build barrels. So it's like each little facet kind of adds up to create the circle for them. And we just really liked the look of the porthole windows and thought it added a nice touch to the camper. And then the glass for all of the windows is actually a polycarbonate, not real glass, because the polycarbonate is more flexible. So if we're driving on a rough road, the windows flex and don't break. And so here our exterior siding is just 5/8 tongue and groove pine siding. So the camper is built pretty much like a standard tiny home would be built. So it's 2x4 framings with house wrap and furring strips, and then the siding's just nailed on with ring shank nails. And then to help waterproof it, it has 2 coats of spar urethane on either side of the wood siding. The truck is on a 8'4" by 8' flatbed, and we bought the truck used with the flatbed on it already. The guy we had bought the truck from had put the flatbed on it himself. And we hold the truck camper itself onto the frame of the truck directly, which is kind of how a typical truck camper is held down. And so we have these ratchet straps which go to a steel eye bolt that goes through into more steel framing on the inside of the camper, and then that hooks down to the frame of the truck as well. So it kind of holds it down to the frame, which is the most sturdy part of the truck. So the truck camper itself is removable. We actually built the camper separately on the ground in a garage and framed it out and weatherproofed it all off the truck itself, and then pulled it out, jacked it up, and put it on back to the truck under it and put it onto the truck. So it's a bit of a process to remove, but it's a nice peace of mind knowing the camper is separate from the truck. If anything ever happens to the truck, we can lift it up, back a new truck under it, and be good to go same day. Yeah, so with my background in architecture, before we ever started building the camper, I built like a whole 3D model of it in Rhino. And I made spreadsheets of like what materials we were going to use, how much they weighed, and how much they cost, so we could try and make sure what we were building would fit in the payload of the truck. And then again, try and see how much it was going to cost before we ever went out and bought all the wood. So we don't know exactly how much it costs, but judging off the kind of spreadsheets and estimates, we think it's about 10 or 12,000 it took to build the camper.
We mentioned the name of the camper. We call it the Beep Beep Birdhouse. So on Instagram, we're at Beep Beep Birdhouse. And we also have a TikTok as well. Thanks for coming along with us and taking a look into our truck camper tiny home, whatever you want to call it.